Hi guys, welcome back. On today's short video, we're just going to go through some of the rigs that I use in my day-to-day fishing, and we'll go through each step and how I tie them. Now, I'm not saying that they're the best in the world, I'm not saying they're the prettiest in the world. I'm just doing it mainly for the new anglers that maybe haven't got as much confidence in tying their own rigs, and it's definitely worth taking the jump because you can just perfect every little bit that you like and adjust it to how you want it and how it works for you. So we'll go through the rig step by step, and I'll go as slowly as I can and try and be as detailed as I can on each step. I hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're into, carp fishing and you want to see bits and bobs. I do reviews, I do all sorts of bits. Hi guys, so the rigs that we're going to look at today are the Ronnie Rig / spinner rig, which you can see here. Just lay that out so you can see that nicely. And the second rig we're going to look at is just a standard hair rig using coated braid, a small bit of tungsten putty, and then we just got an anti-tangle sleeve on the end of that one. And the third rig, which I don't actually have to hand as they're already made, is the short hook links that I use for my PVA bags, my solid bags. So first things first, we're going to need a few bits. So for the first rig, which is the Ronnie Rig spinner rig, we're going to need some sort of some boom material from Korda. So I've got this in 25 £, and the second thing for the first rig that we'll need is some Korda krimp tool. As we're using the 25 £, sorry, we'll need the 0.6mm crimps. If we were using the 35, we'd use the 0.7. We're going to need some sharp scissors or shears, whatever you've got. We're going to need some hooks. So I've got here some Korda curve shank micro barbed in a size 6. We will also need a ring swivel, but a quick release ring swivel. Now this one is got a bit of a wider gape on the, I don't know if you can see that there. So that's got quite a wide gape, so that's going to do us quite well for what we want. So it's a quick release swivel, quick release ring swivel, sorry. We need that. And then we want a little piece of shrink tube. So just to cover that to make the hook. So I always like to use a ruler as much as I can. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I get a bit messy. But I like to get my hook links relatively the same size. So I normally aim for a 6-inch boom section. So what I tend to do, because I'm tight and I don't want to waste any, I get the end of my hook link. And for the first one, we're just going to do the loop section. So we're going to do the loop section, which is going to look like this. That light is not doing me any favours. There we go. I'm going to do the loop section first. So I'm just going to literally get the end, pull some off so you're not working in a small kind of environment. Get plenty off You can always put it back on if you peel too much off your boom material. So then on the end of the crimps there's a two small holes. So what you want to do is you want to thread it through one. No, what we'll do first is we'll get the end, and it's always a good idea to cut this on an angle. Cut it on an angle because it just makes it go through the swivel better. So let me just see if I can get a nice close-up of the angle on that. Probably not going to be able to because it's see-through, isn't it? Translucent or whatever you call it. So I just pop it through one end and then I put it back through into the other end, and then I just like to get a tiny little bit just poking out the end, almost next to nothing, just so it goes through, and then I make it to roughly how much of a loop I want on my hook link. So that's good enough for me. So what I normally do is if you look on these, you've got a large and a small, well, an S and an L. The large is for the bigger crimps, the small is for the smaller ones. However, I like to just put it through the large ones first, and then I think it's just a little bit better. Just gives you that extra bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the crimp, we're going to get the tool, and then the slots on the crimp, we're just going to make sure that it's fully inside, and make sure that it's in the other side as well. Don't want it to have any issues. And then just push down. It'll only go down a little bit because we're using the big crimp. Then once you're happy with that, just come and put it into the smaller section, making sure that the actual crimp itself fits into both of the sections either side of the crimp tool. And then I just give it a good squeeze. Now don't squeeze too hard, because I've had reports or heard reports that the crimp tool can often snap here or just on this section here. So don't give it too much welly, otherwise you could be in for a broken tool, and I know that they become like rocking horse cack. So then what I do is I tend to get my ruler, I just hold the end of my loop at the 6-inch mark, and then I know roughly, judging by how big the crimp is and the fact that we're putting a ring swivel on here now, or we're going to be, I like to cut that just a little bit longer. So I'd maybe give it another 1/2 inch for me. Like I say, I'm tight, so I don't want to waste any material, well, if I can. So then again, remember to cut it on a slight angle, and there we go. Now for the next bit, what I normally do is I normally do this bit now. You can do it either way. There's no right or wrong way. I like to prepare the hook ready, because with this heat shrink tube, which you can either use a kettle to heat shrink it, or you can use a lighter. Obviously be careful if you're using a lighter, you don't want to burn yourself, it does hurt. So what I normally do is I normally just have a look and gauge it. So I'm going to put in through the back, and then as you can see, this is going to be giving us our kind of rigid kind of section. So what I like to do, I like to cover half of the barrel with the tubing. So I like to cover half the barrel, so I'm looking at roughly probably about that much tubing. So again, just cut it off nice and straight, and then what you want to do is get your hook and thread it over the eyelet first, and get the ring swivel, quick release ring swivel, and then slide the tubing over the ring swivel, obviously being careful because new hooks are very sharp. So as you can see, I like to get mine pretty sharp, not pretty sharp, pretty long, so it covers the whole lot. So then what I'll do is I will get, like I say, a lighter or something similar, and then what you'll end up with is something that looks like this. Let me just take this hook bead off here. I did thought I had my lighter to hand, but obviously I don't. So you see how the tubing is a little bit short on that one. I'd have preferred it a little bit longer, just to come down maybe halfway over the barrel, and then it goes up the eye quite a bit. So once that's created, so once that's done and you've got your tubing over as much as you're comfortable with, then obviously being careful as it's a lighter, hold it away from yourself, try and hold it as far as you can. The reason I do this bit now is because if I do it while the boom's on, obviously this is fluorocarbon, so it's obviously very susceptible to heat, so I normally just put it over the top. As you can see, that's shrinking on there quite nicely. Lift it over and do the same again. Doesn't need lots of heat, doesn't need too much. Obviously that's hot, so just give it a second. What I like to do is just pull it to how I want it, so I like it to be a little bit more aggressive, so I like to just pull it around a little bit. It'll automatically flex back somewhat anyway, and there we have the hook section of our Ronnie Rig. So let's give that another minute or so just to fully cool down. And I think we're good with that. So now I'm going to get this section here, which is the fluorocarbon section, with our small piece, small loop on the end for putting on our quick release, quick change led clip system. So then I thread on the other crimp. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab the ring swivel end, the ring end of this swivel, and I'm going to get my fluorocarbon boom section and just thread it into there. So for this bit, it doesn't matter, don't try and squeeze it in all in the tight space, bring it to the end and slot it straight back in into the other section of the swivel. So you see that's just come through, and I like to pull it back and then pull the whole crimp back. So we're aiming for 6 inches. Like I said, that's what I like to try and make my rig lengths. So that's not far off, so we're going to have minimal wastage. So this section needs to be really tight to the ring, so we're going to be pushing this all the way up and then measure again. As you can see, it is pretty much bang on 6-inch mark. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push this section in order to force the excess fluorocarbon out of the other end of the swivel, of the crimp. So now that that's tight there, we're going to crimp this side. So again, I'm going to follow the same method I did before, put it into the large crimp, just check to make sure that you're not going to, I like to poke a tiny little slither out of the end, just so that when it's crimping it's not going to damage anything. And then crimp, giving it a good squeeze, and then putting it into the smaller section, doing the same thing. Sometimes it's easy to do it upside down because you've now got a hook on the end. Can be tricky. So now I'm in the smaller section, I'm happy that that's in, and I'm just going to give it a good squeeze, but not too much. I don't want to absolutely destroy it. And basically that's pretty much it. Now what you are going to be using more than likely is, if I can find where I've just put it, is the chances are you're going to be using a hook bead, which is one of these, and you'll either be using a bait screw, which is one of these, basically just looks like a screw and it's got like a link in it, or what you might have is, I've got here, which is the micro ring swivels, which are for the ends of hooks. So looks a bit like, well, this is one of them. There's two of them now actually, so it's one of them. Now they look like normal ring swivels, but they're just a lot smaller. So what you do with this is, if I don't stab the hook into myself, is you put the hook through like that, and then you get your bait bead, or your hook bead, shall I say, that's the correct name for it, and just going to bring that round, and it's going to look like that. Now what you use with that is maybe some bait floss. Like I say, I'm a cheap guy and dental floss works fine, so I have some Morrison's own dental floss, and it's even got a nice little cutter and everything there, so I just pull a little bit off, put whatever bait I'm putting on the end of this. Usually obviously it'd be a buoyant bait, so it'd maybe be a wafter or something like that, and that's it. So as you can see, the boom section, because it's been wrapped around the spool, it's obviously got a natural bend in it, but what you can do is you can boil the kettle and steam them straight. Now on a few occasions I have been able to literally straighten them up by doing this. But that doesn't always work. But there is one other method which I'll show you, which I probably should have done maybe before I put the hook on. And it is quite literally to get two puller tools. Now I don't have puller tools, I just have these things, but basically put this through the end, so don't put anything sharp, nothing metal. So I'm using a round surface, and then I'm going to be using this round surface to grab through the ring of this one, obviously watching out for the hook, and you just want to give it a pull, and you want to give it a good pull, because you basically, what you're doing here, you're testing two things. Obviously one, you're straightening it, and two, you're actually testing how strong the crimps are. So if I stop actually jabbing myself with the needle, so as you can see, one end is just sat in that, the other end is just sat there freely, being very careful of the hook. As you can see, it just wants to turn and absolutely destroy my hands. So give it a good pull. I'm not trying to absolutely destroy it, but I'm just giving it a good pull, just to make sure that everything's where it should be. And I'm going to check in the small area here and at the side here. I'm just checking to see if any of the fluorocarbon is moving, maybe the crimp's not great or whatever, and it just gives you a bit more confidence. And as an effect of that, you can see that that is actually pretty straight now. So yeah, and then I mean, these, I've had good success with the Ronnie Rig spinner rig. I don't even know what the difference is. I'm not a professional, but these are brilliant because all they want to do whenever you turn them is they just want to grab. So no matter which way, we can spin that upside down, pointing away from us, but as soon as it hits that, it just wants to grab straight in. So I'd say 4 out of 5 fish that I've had on this rig have all been nailed in the bottom lip with no issues. Some people like them, some people don't. I've had some good success on it, and that's it for the Ronnie Rig. Now, one addition I will say is I use a sleeve on it just to you know, keep it straight. I mean, it is stiff material anyway, so even when you're casting it, it naturally wants to kick away from your rig, not your rig, sorry, from your lead clip. But one other addition would be some tungsten putty. So this is really good for balancing out. If you're using a pop-up and you want it to get slow sinking, then you're probably going to want to get yourself some tungsten putty, or maybe some sinkers or something similar, and you just want to add a little bit, try out in your sink or whatever, and then, you know, take a bit off if it's just sinking too fast. What you want it to do, you want it basically to drop in and just nice and slowly just kind of sit, so it kind of sits above. If you have it too heavy, then if you hit some weed or silt, it's just going to plow straight into it. But what you want it to do, you want it to sit, come down nicely, and sit just above anything that's, you know, in the way, and you're pretty much guaranteed it's going to be, you know, presented nicely, unless it's thick weed or really soft silt. But even then, if you've got it balanced right, it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, so that's it for that rig. If you do have any questions on this rig, let me know. If there's something I've missed or something I could do better with this rig, please definitely do let me know, so I know and I could do it better myself. That's the newest rig that I've used, and it's working quite well. My main go-to rig, which I've been using for, well, many years, is just the coated braid, you know, a small section stripped off there just to give it that supple, you know, movement, so it can move around, so it's not too stiff. And I added a bit of tungsten putty because I had a pop-up on that rig. I was just trying a pop-up, but we'll make this one now. So for this one, let's just get rid of all this stuff here. For this one, you don't need the crimp tool. You don't need, well, I'll just tell you what bits you do need. That's probably going to be a better option, isn't it? So move this out of the way. Don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. You can do. Okay, so we'll get another hook. And I'm going to get some, we can either use the end trap, semi-stiff by Korda. That's £15. That comes in a range of colours. I think this one's weedy green. Or what I've been using for quite a while is a JRC Cocoon, gravel and sand, and that's in £15. Again, this is a 20 metre spool. So what I tend to do is just strip a good bit off, and we're going to do something similar with the last one, where we're going to kind of sort this end out first, and then we'll snip and get it to the right length. So what I usually do is create a supple hair, so I normally get maybe 2 inch. I mean, I know it's probably overdoing it, but my figure of 8 loop knot skills aren't the best in the world, so I tend to use the aid of a baiting needle. So what I like to do is just slide my hook on through the front, and then we're just going to create a figure of 8 loop knot. And what I'm going to do is just overhand that. Like I say, my loop knot skills are not the best. I mean, I don't even know if it has to be a figure of 8 loop knot, to be honest. I think just an overhand knot. So I'll just pull a little bit more of this off. Try and give myself more easier room to work in. So figure of 8 loop knot, and then with that, you want to tuck this just behind the back of this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my baiting needle and just pop it through there, so, and shut that gate, and there we go. Give that a good bit of a pull, and then you want to get your cutters, whatever your sharp cutters are, and just give that a few cuts. It's not the best stuff for cutting, isn't braid, but so there we've got just a simple hair loop, as you can see. And then we're going to slide the hook back up and roughly get our hair rig of where we want it. So depending on how long you want your hair on your rig, some people like a long rig, some people like a short rig. I think it's 6 2/3 on a lot of occasions. I guess it depends on what type of bait you're using is in size. So for me, I like a snowman rig, so maybe use like a 10mm pop up and maybe like a 15mm bottom bait for my snowman rig. So I would probably say, let's look at the one that I've used previously. So I would say my hair is maybe 1.5 inches. Yeah, 1.5 inches, just a smidgen under 1.5 inches. So I'll do similar here. So we've got roughly 1.5 inches there, and then on the hook you want to make sure that you go away from the hook. You don't want to go in the hook. I always go away because there is a small opening here, so I tend to just go around once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then on the last few I'm going to come down and go 9, 10. So the reason I'm doing this is because now I'm going to cut my hook length. So you want to make sure that you account for your loop on the end. So with this one I'm not so bothered about a small bit of wastage, as it doesn't cost half as much as the boom material. So I'll just snip that there, and I'm going to come with this, and then I'm going to pop this back through the end of this eye here. Now this, with coated braid, it can be tricky, but it's worked fine. So and then just give it a good pull. Now I've had a few people tell me that it's always good to have your hair coming off at a bit of an angle. Kind of gives you something a little bit different. Now how true that is, I don't know. I have tried it and I've done it normally and I don't see huge differences, but if there's a chance it could help me make sure I get that fish, then I don't mind trying it. So as you can see, that's nice and tidy for the most part. Just not give it a nice pull down. Obviously give it a good pull to make sure that it's all on there. And there you go. See, that's quite nice and tidy. And now what we're going to do is I'm just going to measure it out. So you can go with 6 inches with this too. 6 inches is maybe good. Maybe you want to do a little bit more. There's no right or wrong answer, I'd say. A lot of people say that the shorter hook lengths in the winter are better because when the fish, because they're a lot slower in the, because they're a lot more, you know, like hibernating almost in winter, they don't move as fast, they don't use as much effort. So a shorter hook length, if you had your lead and you had a shorter hook length, when they pick the bait up, it's small, a very small distance till the lead sets the hook. Whereas in summer they grab it and run like mad. I usually try and keep all mine around the same size, so around about 6 inches. I mean, go 7, 8 to you, depends what you want. And we're going to do a similar thing for this one. So we're going to do the figure of 8 loop knot again. It's a lot easier with the braid coated, sorry. So he says that, and now we can't do it. And then we're going to spin it all the way around the back. So what I've done is I've created a loop. This is the figure of 8 loop knot, and then so I've brought that forward, and then basically I've tucked this round the back. So I'm bringing this round the back of this and just kind of pinching it with the top of my finger, and then I'm going to bring my baiting needle through the back. Just make sure that that hook's on, Then my gate on the baiting needle is going to shut, and then that's going to give us a nice finish. So what I like to do is just moisten it a little bit. You should always moisten your knots, and just pull that nice and tight. So that is what is described as a figure of 8 loop knot. I might be wrong. If so, let me know. Definitely let me know in the comment section if this is not in fact a figure of 8 loop knot, because I could be absolutely talking utter garbage. And then just snip your tag end. So there you have the main part of the rig. So one thing that I like to do is just come down maybe 10 mil, maybe, yeah, 10 mil from the hook. And then what I like to do is I'm just gonna break the braid. I'm not looking to strip loads. I'm literally looking to strip a very small piece, because what I'm after here is if I'm using a pop-up or a snowman rig, I want it to be able to have that hinge. So you just literally just peeling back just through to the braid, so there's nothing in the way, and you got yourself almost like the hinge section there. And what I've done on my own rig, because like I say, I was trying to make it critically balanced as such, I had quite a big pop-up on. So what I did was I added a small, well, a bit of tungsten putty, and what I did was just at the edge of the coat of the braid, just on the edge there, I just kind of nicked it to try and hold it on there. So that's mine. That's the one that we've just made, and we have our loop section. So that'll go onto your quick release, quick change swivel. Sorry, that's on your lead clip system. I think it's a much better option than using just a normal swivel. I just think it's so easy to chop and change between different rigs or whatever you're doing. So yeah, so that's that rig. Like I say, obviously what you're gonna have here, you're gonna either have some fake corn and some pop-ups or whatever, real corn, and you've got quite a good aggressive hook sat right. And again on this one, this is a similar thing because of that. I think because of the hinge that we've added, which is peeling the very small section away, so you can see that's pointing exactly the wrong way, but because of the hinge that we've now created, it just wants to flip round straight away and grab. So I'm hoping that would do the same business in the water. So that's the second rig, and we'll move on to the third one. This one is for PVA bags. So I haven't got any made up because they're all pre-tied. Well, I've got many pre-tied already. So, but this one I'm just literally going to be using some non-coated braid. It's just supple braid, fast sink. This is fast sink 3-tone camo by Drennan. It's a 10-meter spool. I'm nearly out actually. I'm gonna have to get some more because I've used it quite a lot. It's in £15, and basically we're going to just make a really small hook link with this. So we're going to do something similar that we did earlier. I'm just going to get the hook that I'm going to use for this one. I'm using a Thinking Anglers, I think it is. Yep, Thinking Anglers microbarb curve point. So I'll just get one of these. I need to stock up a little bit more on some hooks, I think. I've got plenty of rigs made up for my sessions, but I've been sharpening all of my rigs. Again, very similar. We're just going to put it through the back, through the front of the hook, thread that through, and there we go. And then just let go of the hook down here somewhere, and we're going to create that loop again. So I'm just going to create a loop, figure of 8 loop, like I say, if that's in fact correct what it's called, and bring it around the back again. Same again, we bring the baiting needle through the back, and then we're going to drag it through, and a little bit of moisture on there, and give it a nice pull tight, and then we just want to trim the tag end off. So the sharper your scissors, the better, because braid does what it says. It's tough it's quite abrasive resistant, so I guess it's kind of an extra peace of mind on the bank as well, I guess. So for this one, literally I'm going to do the same again. So in my PVA bags, solid bags that I use with the stems, I probably will have maybe a couple of bits of fake corn, and maybe a maggot or an imitation maggot, and maybe even a really small wafter or something like that. So it all depends what you want to use, it's up to you. And for this one, it's going to be a really small rig, so it's going to be maybe around 4 inches, maybe 5 inches. So I'll just cut this off here. I like them small because it's in the bag, so I know it's going to be relatively okay. You don't want too much in there, otherwise I feel that you're more chance of getting tangled. So we'll just do this pretty much the exact same thing we did last time. We're just gonna get our hair a rough length that we're happy with, shorten it or lengthen it depending on how you want it, and we're just gonna go around the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Come back down for 9 and 10. Now we're just going to grab the end of this, just going to moisten it like you do with the cotton, just to get your this is going to be a problem now, isn't it? Because I've got a frayed end on the end, I'm not going to be able to thread it through, I don't think. Ah, there we go. Lovely. So again, keeping it nice and tight all the way to the end, and then just grabbing and giving it a good pull. Now you can, once you finish this, you can get the 2 knot pullers, put one on each side and pull it, but I don't think it's necessary all the time. Just making sure everything's nice and tidy. So like I said, this is going to be about 4 or 5 inches, so we'll go with, what should we go with? We'll go with just over 4.5. Once you've got this section here, the end, doesn't really matter where you do your loop, because that length will obviously stay the same, relatively anyway. So I'm just going to put the second loop in here, doing the same thing we did last time, looping, then round the back. Then I'm going to put my baiting needle in and pull. I want to grab your tag end and give that a pull as well. Bit of moisture on there, being very careful because that hook is super sharp. It's a brand new hook. Well, it's sticky sharp. Then get your tag end, get your scissors, and just give it a chop. You do have to kind of hack it sometimes, but not too bad. So there we have our, well, what I would use. Obviously different people use different things, but that is exactly what I would use for my PVA bag. With just you know, what I would tend to do is that's a little bit longer, so on my Avid stem, or if I wasn't using a stem and I was just literally using a swivel the other side of the lead. Let's get a swivel and I'll just show you. So if that was the end of my swivel, what I would do is literally pop that through and literally put my hook through there, harder with bait on obviously, and then obviously like you see, you just literally pull and that will tighten up into place, and then you've got your rig ready. I'm not going to pull it too tight at the minute, and that's it. So move all the fluff out of the way. That is the 3 rigs that I use up to now. They're the only rigs I've used, and although this weekend I will be trying out the Medusa rig or the maggot rig, and it will be a similar, I might even use it on the Ronnie Rig, spinner rig. And what I'll have is, I will use a micro ring swivel like this. I will get a small bit of imitation corn. I've just bought some double corn, and they are artificial and they are buoyant. So I'll just get some double corn, and then a sewing needle with some thread, and just maybe put maybe 5 or 6 maggots onto the needle, onto the thread, and just tie them just above, so it just gives it a bit of a, you know, there's actually live bait on there kind of thing. So, well, I think that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I didn't rabbit on too much. Like I say, I am by no means a professional, so there's probably things in here that could be potentially wrong, or stuff that I could improve on, which if there is, by all means definitely let me know. Like I say, I like the constructive criticism, so I can make my fishing better. And I've done the video for maybe the new anglers who are maybe not so sure or not so confident of their own rigs, and I hope it was informative. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you did enjoy it, and hit the like button, be much appreciated. And if there's any other tutorials, any specifics that you want me to do, any rigs that you want me to learn how to make and then do a video for you guys, let me know, and I'll be sure to do my best to get that to you as soon as possible. Well, that's it for now then. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and take care.